Hello everybody, Fabio here and welcome to another XBL Party game review where today we are going to take a look at Formula Retro Racing and see if it is worth your time or not. Being developed and published by Repixel 8, sorry for the butchering if I ended up causing it, who were really kind enough to send us a review code, thank you so much for that. Formula Retro Racing is an arcade racing game in the style that reminds a lot of the Mega Drive classic Virtual Racing. By the way, I want to make it clear that this game was developed by a very small team, so even though I won't stop making any sort of criticism when they are necessary, I will try to be way more understanding towards this game during this review. So basically, Formula Retro Racing is a very simple game, with its main objective being to make you feel the nostalgia of the racing games from the past, but making sure that you have fun with it. After all, a racing game, whether it's an arcade or a simulator, presentation is not everything. And this is something that this game actually manages to do it. It's fun. The car handling, braking and steering are all pretty tight. And I also had a lot of fun to learn the tracks that I was unlocking with the racing points that I was gaining after each race. Keep in mind that the tracks become harder and harder during progression. The game offers up 8 tracks with 3 difficulty settings per course. 4 modes, the classic arcade modes, is just a classic racing where you try to end the race at first place within all of its laps, with also a timer to hit the checkpoints, otherwise you will end up automatically losing. Eliminator, where with each lap you complete, the AI cars gain way more speed and you have to be at least at the 10th place out of 20, otherwise it is going to be the end of your run. Grand Prix, being the local multiplayer up to 4 players, and free practice, where I think you already know what that means. And the game also has a variety of skins for you to choose for your car, which are always of the same model. Like the skins, they just don't change any sort of features of the car that you are using. Everyone plays with exactly the same car model. So if your decision rests on how much a racing game can offer up to you, then that will help you to make that decision, which is entirely for you to make it. Even though the game feels fun to play, my favorite part of it was for sure the music and the announcer during the race. For many it may sound just like generic 90s retro music, but to me it just captured perfectly the feeling that it was to play virtual racing. Combine that with the speed you can hit in this game, and I was sort of in a hypnotized state while I was playing it. But yes, sadly the game does have its flaws, and again, even though the game is developed by a small team, there's no way for me to not address this issue, which ruined many of my runs, the collisions. Here's the thing, during your runs you will end up hitting your racing rivals, as well as they will end up trying to do the same with all cars involved. Yeah, because their AI is pretty aggressive, and all the cars involved in the collision will take damage from that. Okay, take enough damage and your car will explode. Fair enough. Well, that is fun, especially in a retro racing game. The way Formula Retro Racing deals with this feature is just completely unpredictable. Like, sometimes you will hit a car and it will explode, sometimes you will end up exploding and the other car stays perfectly fine. Sometimes you just touch your tire on the car in front of you and you will explode, other times nothing will happen. As well as most of the time, if you just touch the AI cars just by one bit, you will lose control of your vehicle and hit the wall, causing damage and costing your place and time to recover. By the way, if you go if you end up hitting the sidewalks or just go off the track, you will end up losing a ton of speed, making really hard for you to recover, especially at harder difficulties. Okay, but the worst part in my opinion of this is just When a car explodes from a crash, the physical collision data of their vehicle remains on the road in a solid object. So if you hit them, you will end up suffering all of the unpredictable results that I've just mentioned. But still, yeah, that's just one. This may be like for me the worst part, but it's just something that I ended up having trouble to deal with. But probably the experience may be a bit different for you. Like I saw other players that had fun with the collision in this game, but yeah, it's going to depend on your preference and your taste in it. But overall, I was quite impressed by Formula Retro Racing, and it's not the most marvelous racing game you will ever play, but it does capture a lot of the fun and nostalgia of the classic arcade racing games of the early 90s. It may have some frustrating aspects, but the result is really positive, especially when you remember that it was a small team who developed this game. Fun, charming, and challenging. If you are up to play a simple retro racing game, I don't think you will be disappointed with this one, so make sure to check it out. So that's it for me, guys. If you liked this review, give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, tell us on what to improve. Subscribe to the channel, make sure to support the show, and for more gaming news, info, reviews, and stuff from our podcast, head on to xplpartypodcast.com. Bye bye everyone, thank you so much.